What would you do if the people who treated you like a servant discovered you owned everything they loved? My name is Elena. And this is the story of how I became invisible in my own home. Clean the dishes. Mom's voice cut through the morning air like a knife. I was 17. Just 17. And every single day started the same way. My hands were already raw from scrubbing. The water was cold. It was always cold. Mom said hot water was a waste. A waste for me, anyway. Elena, did you hear me? Yes, Mom, I whispered. I always whispered. When you're treated like you don't matter, your voice starts to disappear too. Dad sat at the kitchen table, newspaper spread in front of him, coffee steaming in his favorite mug. The mug I'd washed. The coffee I'd made. The table I'd cleaned. Make the bed when you're done, he said without looking up. And iron my shirts. I have a meeting. Yes, Dad. My sister Vanessa walked in, phone in hand, laughing at something on her screen. She was 19. Beautiful. Perfect. Everything I wasn't supposed to be. She glanced at me, at my wet hands and tired eyes, and smirked. God, Elena, you look like a maid, she said, flipping her hair. Oh wait, you basically are. She laughed. Mom laughed too. Dad said nothing. He never said anything when they mocked me. I kept scrubbing. Plate after plate. Cup after cup. The breakfast I'd made for them. The food I wouldn't eat because there was never enough left for me. This was my life. Every single day. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what no one knew. I was counting down. Day by day. Hour by hour. Because I had a secret. A secret so big, so explosive, that when it came out, everything would shatter. And that day was coming soon. Very soon. I finished the dishes and moved to the bedrooms. Mom and Dad's room first. The king-sized bed with silk sheets. I smoothed every wrinkle, fluffed every pillow. Then Vanessa's room. Clothes everywhere. Makeup spilled on the dresser. She never cleaned. Why would she? That's what I was for. My room was the smallest. A closet, really. No decorations. No warmth. Just a bed and a tiny desk. But I never complained. I couldn't. Because complaining meant consequences. It was Tuesday when the guests arrived. Mom loved hosting parties. She'd invite her friends, her book club, her yoga instructor, anyone who could see how perfect our family was. Elena. Mom snapped her fingers at me like I was a dog. Bring out the appetizers. And make sure you stay in the kitchen. I don't want you hovering around our guests. But Mom, did I stutter? I swallowed the words crawling up my throat and nodded. In the kitchen, I arranged the food on fancy platters. Food I'd spent hours preparing. Bruschetta. Stuffed mushrooms. Prosciutto wrapped asparagus. I could hear them laughing in the living room. Mom's high-pitched giggle. Vanessa's theatrical storytelling voice. Then I heard it. Oh, who's that girl in the kitchen? One of the guests asked. That's Elena, Mom said casually. She helps around the house. Helps around the house. Not our daughter. Not our family. I was the help. The guest laughed. You're so lucky to have such good help these days. It's so hard to find someone reliable. My hands trembled as I gripped the serving tray. They thought I was the maid. And Mom let them think it. I brought out the food, eyes down, silent. I felt their stares. Heard their whispers. She's so quiet. Very obedient. I wonder how much they pay her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the tray across the room and tell them the truth. But I didn't. Not yet. I went back to the kitchen and stood there, hands pressed against the cold counter, breathing hard. Vanessa walked in, grabbed a bottled water from the fridge, and looked at me with mock pity. "Oh, poor Elena," she cooed. "You look upset. What's wrong? Not enough tips." She laughed and walked away. That night, after everyone left, after I'd cleaned up every glass, every plate, every crumb, I sat alone in my tiny room. And I smiled. Because they had no idea what was coming. The lawyer's letter was hidden under my mattress. I'd read it 100 times. Every word memorized. My grandmother's will. The inheritance. The house. Everything. They didn't know Grandma Rose had left it all to me. Not to Mom. Not to Dad. Not to Vanessa. To me. The invisible girl. The servant. The nothing. I inherited everything. And in 3 days, the truth would come out. 3 days until the lawyer's official meeting. 3 days until their entire world collapsed. I could have told them sooner. I could have ended this months ago. But I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to show me exactly who they were. I wanted proof of every cruel word, every dismissive glance, every moment they made me feel worthless. Because when the truth came out, there would be no excuses. No apologies that could undo what they'd done. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, and whispered to myself, 3 more days. The next morning started like all the others. Elena. Breakfast. I dragged myself out of bed, still exhausted from the night before, and went to the kitchen. Dad was already dressed for work. Mom was scrolling through her phone. Vanessa stumbled in, still in her pajamas, yawning dramatically. Make me pancakes, Vanessa ordered without looking at me. We're out of mix, I said quietly. Her head snapped toward me. So, go to the store. It's 7 in the morning. The store doesn't open until I don't care, she shouted. Figure it out. Mom finally looked up from her phone. Elena, don't argue with your sister. Just make her something else. But enough, Dad said coldly. Do what you're told. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. 2 more days. I made Vanessa scrambled eggs instead. She ate 2 bites and pushed the plate away. These are disgusting, she said. You can't even cook eggs right. She left the plate on the table and walked away. I stared at that plate. At the wasted food. At the casual cruelty. And I thought about Grandma Rose. She was the only one who ever loved me. The only one who saw me. When I was little, she'd sneak me treats when Mom wasn't looking. She'd braid my hair and tell me stories. She'd say, "You're special, Elena. Don't let them make you forget that." When she got sick, I was the only one who visited her in the hospital. Mom said she was too busy. Dad said hospitals depressed him. Vanessa said old people smelled weird. But I went. Every single day after school. I held her hand. I read to her. I stayed until the nurses kicked me out. And before she died, she held my hand one last time and whispered, "I'm going to take care of you, sweetheart. They don't deserve you. But you deserve everything." I didn't understand what she meant then. But 2 months after her funeral, the lawyer called me. Mr. Peterson. A kind man with grey hair and warm eyes. "Elena," he said gently, "your grandmother left very specific instructions in her will. She wanted me to wait until you turned 18 to tell you this. My birthday had just passed. No one remembered. No cake. No gifts. No happy birthday. I turned 18 alone. Tell me what?" I asked. "She left you everything. The house you're living in. The savings account. The investments. Everything is yours." I couldn't breathe. What do you mean? "The house your family lives in belonged to your grandmother. She allowed your parents to live there, but it was always in her name. And now it's in yours. You're the legal owner, Elena. Of everything." The room spun. "Do my parents know?" "No. Your grandmother made me promise to tell you first. She wanted you to decide when and how to reveal it. The official reading of the will is scheduled for this Friday. That's when everyone will find out. Friday. 2 days from now." I thanked Mr. Peterson and hung up. And then I cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears. Tears of pure, overwhelming relief. I wasn't nothing. I wasn't invisible. I was the owner of everything they thought was theirs. Thursday came. 1 day left. I woke up before dawn and did my chores in silence. Made breakfast. Cleaned. Organized. Mom had a hair appointment. Dad had work. Vanessa had brunch with friends. I was alone in the house for a few hours. And I walked through it differently. I looked at the living room with its expensive furniture. Mine. The chandelier in the dining room. Mine. The backyard with the pool. Mine. Every inch of this place belonged to me. And tomorrow, they'd know. That afternoon, Vanessa came home with shopping bags. Designer brands. Expensive clothes. Put these in my room, she said, dropping them at my feet. I looked at the bags. Then at her. Please, I said quietly. She blinked. What? Say please. Her face twisted with anger. Excuse me? You want me to carry your things? Say please. Vanessa's jaw dropped. Are you serious right now? You're the one who what? I interrupted. My voice was calm. Too calm. Who helps around the house? Who cleans up after you? Who makes your food and washes your clothes? You're my sister, she shouted. You're supposed to do those things. Actually, I said, I'm not. Mom walked in, hearing the commotion. What is going on here? Elena's being a brat. Vanessa whined. She's refusing to help me. Mom's eyes narrowed at me. Elena, apologize to your sister right now. I looked at Mom. Really looked at her. And I smiled. No. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Mom's face went red. What did you just say to me? I said no. You ungrateful little. Tomorrow, I interrupted, there's a meeting at Mr. Peterson's office. The lawyer. He has something to discuss with all of us. About Grandma Rose's will. Mom's anger flickered into confusion. What are you talking about? You'll find out tomorrow. 10 a.m. But then I remembered every cruel word. Every dismissive gesture. Every moment they made me feel worthless. And the guilt disappeared. Friday morning, I dressed carefully. A simple black dress. Neat hair. Clean shoes. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked strong. Downstairs, Mom and Dad were already arguing. I don't understand why we have to go to this meeting, Dad grumbled. I have work. It's about Rose's will, Mom said. There might be money involved. We should go. Money. Of course that's what they cared about. Vanessa came down in designer jeans and a silk blouse, phone in hand as always. This better be quick, she muttered. I have plans. We drove to Mr. Peterson's office in silence. The tension in the car was suffocating. When we arrived, Mr. Peterson greeted us warmly and led us into a conference room. Please, sit, he said. We sat around a large table. Mr. Peterson at the head. Me on one side. Mom, Dad, and Vanessa on the other. It felt like a trial. Mr. Peterson opened a folder and cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. I've asked you here today to discuss the last will and testament of Rose Margaret Sullivan. Mom leaned forward eagerly. Yes, Rose was very close to our family. We're hoping she left something to help with the household expenses. Mr. Peterson smiled politely. I'm sure you are. However, Mrs. Sullivan's will is quite specific. He pulled out a document and began to read. I, Rose Margaret Sullivan, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath my entire estate to my beloved granddaughter, Elena Rose Sullivan. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. Mom blinked. I'm sorry, what? This includes, Mr. Peterson continued, the property located at 842, Maple Drive. That's our house, Dad interrupted. As well as all financial assets, savings, and investments held in my name. Vanessa's face went pale. Wait. Grandma left everything to Elena? That is correct, Mr. Peterson said calmly. Mom's voice rose. That's impossible. There must be a mistake. There's no mistake, Mrs. Sullivan. Your mother-in-law made her wishes very clear. Dad stood up, his face red. This is ridiculous. Elena is just a child. She can't own a house. She's 18, Mr. Peterson said. Legally an adult. And legally the sole owner of the property you've been living in. The room erupted. Mom screamed about fairness. Dad demanded to see the paperwork. Vanessa started crying, her perfect face crumpling. And I sat there, silent, watching it all unfold. Mr. Peterson raised his hand. Please. Let me finish. They quieted down, but the rage in their eyes was unmistakable. "Elena," Mr. Peterson said gently, "your grandmother left you a letter. Would you like me to read it?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. He opened an envelope and pulled out a handwritten note. "My dearest Elena," he read, "if you're hearing this, I'm gone. But I want you to know that I see you. I always have. I see how they treat you. How they take you for granted. How they make you feel invisible. You are not invisible, my darling. You are the brightest light in that family, and they are too blind to see it. This house, this money, it's all yours. Not because I don't love them, but because you are the only one who truly loved me. You are the only one who showed up. Who cared. Who stayed. Take care of yourself, Elena. And don't let them take anything from you. You deserve everything. All my love, Grandma Rose." Tears streamed down my face. Mom's voice was venomous. "This is manipulation. She manipulated a sick old woman." "Mrs. Sullivan," Mr. Peterson said firmly, "your accusations are unfounded and inappropriate. Rose was of sound mind when she made this will. I have medical documentation to prove it." Dad turned to me, his eyes hard. "You knew about this, didn't you?" I wiped my tears and met his gaze. "Yes. And you said nothing?" "Why would I?" My voice was steady now. "You never listened to me anyway." Vanessa stood up, her hands shaking. "This is insane. You can't just kick us out." "Actually, Mr. Peterson said, Elena can. She's the legal owner. She has every right to decide who lives in her property." All eyes turned to me. The power in that moment was intoxicating. I looked at each of them. At their shocked faces. Their fear. Their desperation. "You treated me like a servant," I said quietly. "You let your guests think I was the maid. You mocked me. Ignored me. Made me feel like I was nothing." "Elena," Mom started. "I'm not finished." My voice was cold. "For years, I did everything you asked. I cleaned. I cooked. I stayed quiet. And you never once said thank you. You never once treated me like family." Dad's jaw clenched. "We gave you a roof over your head. Food. Clothes. That was Grandma's house," I said. "Her money. You didn't give me anything." "She did." Vanessa was openly sobbing now. "So what? You're just going to throw us out?" I stood up slowly, my hands pressed against the table. "I haven't decided yet." The room went still. "You haven't decided?" Mom's voice wavered. "No. I'll let you know by the end of the week." I turned to Mr. Peterson. "Is there anything else?" He shook his head, a small smile on his face. "No, Elena. That's everything." "Then we're done here." I walked out of the conference room, leaving them stunned and speechless. Outside, I stood in the parking lot, breathing in the cool air. I felt free. For the first time in my life, I felt powerful. But the revenge wasn't over yet. Not even close. The drive home was silent. No one spoke. No one looked at me. When we got to the house, my house, Mom and Dad went straight to their room and slammed the door. Vanessa disappeared into hers, still crying. I went to the kitchen and made myself tea. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. I heard them arguing upstairs. Muffled shouts. Blame being thrown around. I sipped my tea and waited. An hour later, Mom came downstairs. Her eyes were red, but her face was composed. "Elena," she said, her voice overly sweet, "can we talk?" I looked at her. "Sure." She sat across from me at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd served her breakfast 1,000 times. "I know you're upset," she began. "And I understand. Maybe we were too hard on you sometimes. Too hard." That's what she called it. "But we're family," she continued. "And family forgives each other. Right?" I said nothing. "Your grandmother," she was confused at the end. "Sick." She didn't understand what she was doing. Mr. Peterson said she was of sound mind. Mom's smile tightened. "Lawyers say a lot of things. What matters is that we're your family. We love you. Do you?" The question hung between us. "Of course we do," she said, But her voice was too high, too forced. Then why did you let your friends think I was the maid? Her face flushed. That was a misunderstanding. You called me the help. I didn't mean, yes, you did. I set down my tea. You meant every word. Every insult. Every dismissive look. You meant all of it. Mom's mask slipped. Anger flashed in her eyes. Fine. You want honesty? You were difficult, Elena. Always so quiet, so awkward. You weren't like Vanessa. You didn't fit in. We tried to help you, to teach me. I laughed bitterly. You taught me that I was worthless. That I didn't matter. That's not, get out of my kitchen. She froze. What? You heard me. Get out. This is my house. No, I said calmly. It's mine. And I'm telling you to leave this room. We stared at each other. A battle of wills. Finally, Mom stood up, her hands trembling with rage. You're going to regret this. Maybe. But not today. She stormed out. I finished my tea in peace. Over the next few days, the house became a war zone. Dad tried intimidation. You're making a huge mistake, Elena. You're too young to handle this responsibility. You need us. I ignored him. Vanessa tried manipulation. Please, Elena. I'm your sister. I love you. Don't do this to me. I ignored her too. Mom tried everything. Guilt. Anger. Fake tears. Threats. None of it worked. Because I'd already decided what I was going to do. On Wednesday, exactly 1 week after the lawyers' meeting, I called a family meeting. We sat in the living room. The same room where guests had mistaken me for the maid. I stood in front of them, a folder in my hands. I've made my decision, I said. They leaned forward, desperate. You can stay in the house. Relief flooded their faces. But, I continued, there are conditions. The relief turned to confusion. I opened the folder and pulled out 3 contracts. These are rental agreements. You'll each sign one. You'll pay me rent. Market rate. And you'll follow house rules. Dad's face turned purple. Rent? You're charging your own family rent? Yes. This is insane, Mom shouted. These are the terms. Sign them, or leave. Vanessa grabbed one of the contracts and read through it, her eyes widening. These rules are crazy. No guests without permission. Shared responsibility for chores. Respectful communication required at all times. That's correct, I said. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Sign, or pack your bags. Silence. They looked at each other, panic setting in. Where would we even go? Mom asked weakly. That's not my problem. Dad stood up, towering over me. You're being cruel. I met his eyes without flinching. I'm being fair. Which is more than you ever were to me. The truth of that statement hit him. I saw it in his face. He sat back down, defeated. One by one, they signed the contracts. Vanessa signed with tears in her eyes. Dad signed with a clenched jaw. Mom signed with shaking hands. When it was done, I collected the papers and smiled. Good. Rent is due on the 1st of every month. Don't be late. I walked out of the room, leaving them in stunned silence. That night, I lay in my bed, still the smallest room in the house, and smiled. But the next morning, I called a contractor. I'd like to renovate a bedroom, I said. Make it bigger. Nicer. I'm thinking a walk-in closet, a private bathroom, better lighting. Sure thing, he said. Which room? The master bedroom. When I told my parents they'd be moving to the smaller guest room, Mom nearly fainted. You can't do this, she screamed. I showed her the contract she'd signed. Section 4. The owner reserves the right to make any changes to the property. That's me. Dad looked like he wanted to hit something. This is our room. No. It's my room. You're just renting space in my house. They moved their things that weekend. I watched from the doorway as they carried boxes and suitcases down the hall, their faces etched with humiliation. Vanessa walked past me, eyes red from crying. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said. But you'll pay your rent on time anyway. The renovations took 3 weeks. When they were done, my new room was beautiful. Spacious. Full of light. A queen-sized bed with soft, expensive sheets. A desk by the window. A bathroom with a soaking tub. It was everything I'd ever wanted. Everything I deserved. I stood in the middle of the room and thought about Grandma Rose. "Thank you," I whispered. Life settled into a new rhythm. My family obeyed the house rules because they had no choice. They paid rent. They did their own chores. They spoke to me with forced politeness. But the resentment was always there, simmering beneath the surface. I didn't care. I enrolled in online college classes. Started planning my future. Made friends who actually respected me. And every month, when the rent checks came in, I deposited them into my account and smiled. One evening, about 3 months after the will reading, there was a knock on my bedroom door. "Come in," I said. Vanessa stepped inside, looking uncomfortable. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey." She fidgeted with her hands. "Can we talk?" "Sure." She sat on the edge of my bed, not meeting my eyes. "I'm sorry," she said finally. I blinked, surprised. "What?" "I'm sorry. For how I treated you. For everything." I studied her face. She looked genuine. Broken, even. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I finally get it," she said, her voice cracking. "I know what it feels like to be powerless. To have someone control your life. And I hate it. I hate feeling this way." She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "You felt like this every day. Because of us. Because of me." I didn't respond. "I know you have no reason to forgive me," she continued. "But I needed to say it. I'm sorry, Elena. I really am." I took a deep breath. "I appreciate that. Do you think we could ever be sisters again? Real sisters?" I thought about it. About all the years of pain. All the cruelty. But I also thought about the girl sitting in front of me. My sister. Broken and humbled. "Maybe," I said. "But it'll take time." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I understand." She stood up to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth," she said, "Grandma was right about you. You're stronger than any of us." She left, closing the door softly behind her. I sat there for a long time, processing everything. Mom and Dad never apologized. They paid their rent and kept their distance, but the hostility never fully disappeared. But Vanessa tried. She started doing her own laundry, cooking her own meals. She asked me about my classes, my life, my plans. Slowly, carefully, we started to rebuild something. It wasn't perfect. It might never be. But it was honest. And that was more than we'd ever had before. 6 months after the will reading, Mr. Peterson called me. "Elena, I have some news," he said. "There's another asset from your grandmother's estate. Something she kept separate." "What is it?" "A trust fund. A substantial one. She set it up years ago, and it's been growing. It's yours now." My heart pounded. "How much?" He told me the number. I nearly dropped the phone. It was enough to pay for college. To travel. To start a business. To live comfortably for years. "Your grandmother wanted you to have options," Mr. Peterson said gently. "She wanted you to be free." I hung up and sat in my beautiful room, overwhelmed with gratitude. Grandma Rose had given me more than money or property. She'd given me power. Dignity. A future. She'd given me everything. That night, I gathered my family in the living room. They looked nervous, probably expecting more bad news. "I have something to tell you," I said. They waited. "I'm moving out." Mom's eyes widened. "What?" "I'm going to college. A real campus. I'll be living in a dorm." "But, what about the house?" Dad asked. "You can stay. Keep paying rent. I'll hire a property manager to handle things while I'm gone." Vanessa looked confused. "You're just leaving?" "Yes. I have a life to live. Dreams to chase. And I can't do that here." Mom's face crumpled. "Elena, please. Don't go. We need you. I looked at her. Really looked at her. You never needed me before, I said quietly. You'll be fine. I turned to Vanessa. You have my number. If you need me, really need me, call me. Otherwise, I'll see you when I see you. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I left 2 weeks later. The day I drove away from that house, I didn't look back. Not once. Because that house wasn't my prison anymore. It was just a building. Bricks and wood and memories. I was free. College was everything I'd dreamed it would be. I made friends who liked me for me. I joined clubs. I laughed. I lived. I called Vanessa once a week. Our conversations were short but real. Mom and Dad sent occasional texts. Awkward attempts at connection. I responded when I felt like it. 1 year later, I came back to visit. The house looked the same, but the energy was different. Mom had gotten a job. Dad had started therapy. Vanessa had enrolled in community college. They were changing. Slowly. Painfully. But they were trying. We had dinner together. It was stiff and uncomfortable, but no one yelled. No one mocked. No one treated me like I was invisible. After dinner, Vanessa walked me to my car. Thanks for coming, she said. Of course. Things are better now. Not perfect, but better. I smiled. Good. I think about that day a lot, she said. The day you told us about the house. I was so angry. But looking back, we deserved it. Yeah. You did. She laughed sadly. You could have destroyed us completely. But you didn't. I thought about it, I admitted. But Grandma wouldn't have wanted that. She wanted me to be strong, not cruel. Vanessa hugged me. I'm proud of you, Elena. Really. I hugged her back. As I drove away that night, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain. The betrayal. The revenge. The healing. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There was no perfect reconciliation. But it was real. And it was mine. 2 years later, I graduated with honors. Grandma's trust fund had paid for everything. I didn't owe a single cent. I started my own business. A consulting firm helping people navigate family law and estate planning. I wanted to help people like me. People who felt powerless. People who needed someone in their corner. The business grew. I hired a small team. We helped dozens of families sort through wills, disputes, and complicated inheritances. And every time I helped someone stand up for themselves, I thought of Grandma Rose. One day, 5 years after the will reading, I received a letter. It was from Mom. My hands shook as I opened it. Dear Elena, it read. I know I don't have the right to ask for your forgiveness. I know I failed you as a mother. But I need you to know that I think about it every day. I think about the way I treated you, the things I said, the pain I caused. I was cruel. I was selfish. And I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. You deserved so much better. I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I just needed you to know. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I appreciated the honesty. Years passed. I built a life I was proud of. Successful. Independent. Free. Vanessa and I grew close again. She became a teacher. We talked often, visited when we could. Mom and Dad got older. Quieter. They stayed in the house, paid their rent on time, and lived their lives. We weren't a perfect family. We never would be. But we were honest now. And that was enough. On the 10th anniversary of Grandma Rose's death, I visited her grave. I brought flowers. Her favorites. White roses. I knelt down and placed them gently on the grass. Hi, Grandma, I whispered. I hope I made you proud. The wind rustled through the trees, and I smiled. I'm happy now. Really happy. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me the courage to stand up for myself. I stayed there for a while, talking to her, telling her about my life. And when I finally stood to leave, I felt at peace. Because I'd learned something important. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about refusing to be invisible. It's about standing up and saying, I matter. And I did matter. I always had. The girl who was treated like a servant became the woman who owned everything. Not just the house. Not just the money. But her life. Her future. Her happiness. And that was the greatest revenge of all. So what would you do in this situation? If the people who hurt you suddenly realized you held all the power, how would you use it? Would you destroy them, or would you give them a chance to change? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something deep, hit that like button and subscribe. Because I have more stories like this. Stories of people who refused to stay down. Stories of revenge, redemption, and rising above. Don't miss the next one. Her future. Her happiness. And that was the greatest revenge of all. So what would you do in this situation? If the people who hurt you suddenly realized you held all the power, how would you use it? Would you destroy them, or would you give them a chance to change? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something deep, hit that like button and subscribe. Because I have more stories like this. Stories of people who refused to stay down. Stories of revenge, redemption, and rising above. Don't miss the next one.